washer is coming with it, I think, slowly. Slowly coming with it? Yes, the washer came with it. All right. I got it. Okay.
And as we can see on the downlink, Mark Lee now has the replacement, or the DIU, the data interface unit, out of the telescope after disconnecting all of the connectors and the 6 bolts on that unit. It's now free, and he's attaching it to the manipulator foot restraint. Once again this evening, we're welcoming Dr. Story Musgrave to the console here in Mission Control to provide insight on the activities ongoing. Of course, he performed 3 spacewalks on the first servicing mission, and has a great deal of insight into the tasks that the crew members are performing on this mission. The Story, one of the first things that comes to mind watching this, it looks like, and we mentioned earlier, one of the most hand-intensive tasks that the crew has on this particular flight. And I know you had a task changing out the SATI that was also quite hand-intensive.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. You got a nice view of the DIU there, and where the electrical connections come into that box. When we go back in there, I'll point out the electrical connections there within the cavity. This task of DIU changeout was not one that upon which we imposed the specifications for being friendly for EVA servicing. And so the connections on that box do not have the great big wing tabs, the 4 to 5 inch wing tabs that you can get in there and rotate easily with a gloved hand. And so on these things, there is no way to make a device on the telescope friendly, which is already there. But taking a connector off is much easier than putting a connector on. To take a connector off, all you need to do is rotate the collar a certain amount, and then the connector will come right off. Putting a connector on, you have to clock the connector, and that is in terms of the rotation of the connector. You need to get it there so that it is the right clocking, so the pins and the sockets will match up. Then you need to push with force on. You have to go on absolutely squarely and clocked correctly. And while you're holding that, then you need to put the right force on the collar. Now, the Goddard Space Flight Center in Greenbelt, Maryland, does an absolutely magnificent, just a magical job of working these situations in which we are working an unfriendly task. There is nothing they can do about the component that is already in the telescope, but they have made extraordinarily friendly the new DIU, which we're going to put in. Once we get the view, you will see that they have already, on the new DIU, the connections are already made to the box. So all of those connections, which would have been extraordinarily difficult given the access to the gloved hand, they have already put all the connections on the box and run them out about 6 or 8 inches into what we call a pigtail. So we are not going to be connecting a connector to the box itself, in which there is very little access and a lot of difficulty in aligning the connector. We are simply going to be connecting one umbilical to another umbilical and dealing with one wire to another wire, a connector and a connector. We have the freedom of access to that connection, and we have the freedom to align it in ways which are comfortable to the glove. And that is.
And Discovery is approaching an orbital sunset as the crew members will turn on the lights on the top of their helmets to assist with lighting the work site. Mark Lee continuing to make the connections. There are 18 of these connections that have to be mated properly before the crew members can back out of this work site and close the door and latch it. And following the connections, of course, the HST project we'll send commands to the new unit to ensure that all of the connections were mated properly and that the signals are being reached through the new data interface unit.
All right. Did you have 4 connector caps in the bag? Okay, my records show that too. I'd like to get rid of the trash bag now. Dr. Stevie, take me out and yaw me right. Out about 6 inches.
Okay, out 6 inches, and I'll yaw you right.
All right, let's take one last look here. 6, 4, 8, 16, 20. 12, 10. So John, put the camera back on. I'm going to keep the trash bag. We'll need it for the SSR anyway. Stop. Stop.
A good view over Mark Lee's shoulder now of the newly installed data interface unit with the 18 connectors mated properly now. The crew has given the ground a go for the aliveness test. This is an electrical test to ensure all of the connections.
Good work, Mark and Steve. Liveness test in work.
So I'm going to retrieve my retractable here for my decimal equipment tether. Okay, ready for some photos.
And so are we. Right side, bottom up view.
I'm going top down.
That's fine. And hold that. We're going to zoom in just a little bit. Okay, pitch it down just a couple degrees. Down. All right. That's a real good view right there, Mark. Hold it. Yeah, it adds a whole new dimension there to CF&H, doesn't it?
Yep. We're talking double CF&H here.
All right, that's good. Let's get the bottom views.
All right, take me down.
Okay, in the camera axis, pitch it down.
The DIUs on the telescope providing command and data interfaces between the telescope's data management system and its other subsystems.
Okay, hold that. Go up.
And Mark Lee now closing the protective door,
Stop there.
having completed the change out, the task of the data interface unit.
Same settings, A3 torque 10.
For B, auto Vern.
Stop.
Stop, Steve.
Still a couple feet above.
Opening the door, the protective door. This is Bay 5, which is the location for the change out of the tape recorder. Again, they will be changing out an engineering and science tape recorder, putting in a new solid state recorder, a recorder that allows for the simultaneous collection of data and transmission of data to the ground.
You can see here how Steve Smith on the arm is actually using the arm to open that door. He grabs the handle and asks the arm operator to take him out away from the telescope, and that is the way he opens the door, showing that in ways it is easier to move the arm than to move the suit itself.
You got a good memory, sir. 118.
We'll bring the T-harness. We'll be all set.
Greg Harbaugh now maneuvering Steve Smith with the new solid state recorder back up to the work site, Bay 5, up on the just on the upper left of the telescope. Discovery is just passing high above the southern tip of Texas, just about to swing across the Gulf of Mexico and fly directly over the Florida Peninsula and the launch site at the Kennedy Space Center. And we just heard Joe Tanner following along with the crew members during this procedure. One connector is left to be mated before the two astronauts conducting the spacewalk inform the intervehicular crew member, which is Joe Tanner tonight, that the connectors are all mated. At that point, the crew members will perform a routine photo closeout using this EVA camera mounted on the manipulator foot restraint. And then at that point, they will give a go for the routine aliveness test that the Hubble Space Telescope project will perform from the ground, and then they'll proceed to close out this work site by closing the door and securing the 6 J-bolts, just as they did earlier on the door that protected the data interface unit.
Still got a, maybe 70 or 80 degree turn in it, but...
And we're going to zoom just a little bit.
Okay.
All right, hold your shot right there. And we got a nice shot of the connector tool as it floated by. Okay, that's good, Steve.
While the crew takes these closeout photos to document the configuration for the HST project, the aliveness test is in work from the ground to ensure that all the connections are good to the new solid-state recorder. Again, this is an upgrade to the tape recorder that the crew just removed, which will allow the simultaneous data gathering and data dumping to the ground.
Tool stop.
And the two astronauts now preparing to secure the door as they reach the 5-hour point now in tonight's spacewalk.
Looks like it's going to be okay. Yeah, I'm going down. Okay. Yeah, I see the 2GC over there. That's locked.
And wheel assemblies are located in this protective enclosure up on the telescope, Bay 5 or Bay 6, as it's known, is just above and to the left of fine guidance sensor number 2 location.
I'm ready for GCA.
Extra gas on. Yeah, we want both of these little kits, right?
Affirmative. You might as well just bring those up to the hatch right now and stow them there, and then we'll get the
Hey, Joe, the settings for the lope lid?
A3, clockwise 2, 10.5.
Yeah, that one's okay, ready to torque one. Alright, that one's good. Okay, A3. Clockwise 2. Alright, now. Okay, what is this one called? P1's made it take me, take me down.
Let's take some photos down. Mark, let's take some photos first. Start anywhere you want and go around the rim.
And the crew members now doing the routine closeout photos, showing the ground, the full connections of the new reaction wheel assembly. The crew members have already installed the new unit and reconnected the 4 connectors, and pressing on now for this closeout photo, the aliveness test next to come to verify those connections this will conclude the final activity scheduled for the crew today. They are expected to do some further inspections of some of the multi-layer insulation that has come delaminated around the circumference of the telescope and some of the bays that typically are pointed in the direction of the sun during the Space Telescope's operation.
A stanchion on which the spacewalkers have planted their feet to be moved around the various areas of the cargo bay, as well as up and down the Hubble Space Telescope for the various servicing tasks. We are about 36 minutes away from the start of the reboost, once again, of Discovery and the telescope. About 20 minutes of the pulsing of vernier reaction control system jets to further increase the altitude of the telescope by about 1.8 nautical miles, just as was the case at about this time yesterday morning. Discussions are ongoing, and discussions will be conducted by the mission management team this morning during its morning tag-up in about 4 hours to determine a possible course of action that astronauts Greg Harbaugh and Joe Tanner might undertake in repairing some of the areas of insulation during their fourth spacewalk. No decisions have yet been made, and no procedures have yet been finalized in regard to all of that, but the mission management team is expected to come up with some answers this morning that would be incorporated into revisions to the flight plan for the final spacewalk by Harbaugh and Tanner late tonight. The propulsion officer here in Mission Control now reports that the reboost maneuver is underway, as portrayed in this computer-generated graphic that you're seeing on your screen. This provided by real-time data being generated by the onboard computers on Discovery and relayed to Mission Control. Again, the firing of these small vernier reaction control system jets expected to last for about 20 minutes to increase the altitude of the Hubble Space Telescope by about 1.8 nautical miles.